This is The Download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news of the business of podcasting. Brought to you by Spreaker from iHeart. I'm Tom Webster. Here is what you need to know for today, Tuesday, January 23rd, and it is a beefy edition of The Download, unless, of course, you're vegan, in which case it's a plant-filled episode of The Download. First, from Digiday, how podcast networks are testing AI tools for faster translation and ad sales. Representatives from networks like Acast, iHeartMedia, and Spotify shared what they're currently testing in the world of AI, ranging from client outreach to language translation. iHeart plans to use generative AI in translating podcasts for international markets and to further globalize the medium, similar to Spotify's public demo last year with translations of Armchair Expert episodes. Acast is using Collections Plus to pull podcast and listener data from different sources to group podcasts in contextual categories, allowing smaller shows to be packaged together to meet advertisers' briefs. And iHeart is also testing tools like Jasper and Microsoft Copilot as aids for research and writing assistance. The common denominator is behind the scenes, with none of the executives interviewed expressing interest in generative AI tools to replace human hosts. From Bumper, I analyzed 28.5 million Apple Podcast star ratings. That's from friend of the podcast, Dan Meisner. After 3 years, Dan Meisner has produced a sequel to his 2020 write-up that analyzed 20 million Apple Podcast star ratings. This refresh covers 1.7 million shows on Apple Podcasts. Findings include the fact that the top 5 shows with Apple star ratings have a lot of ratings. Dr. Death lands in 5th place with around 87,000, all the way up to Crime Junkie with 344,000 ratings. The exponential number difference continues in the other direction as well. Of the 1.7 million shows analyzed, 492,000 had one or more star ratings applied. When averaged for star ratings per show, the top 5 categories are news commentary, golf, after shows, wilderness, and then true crime firmly at the top, although the exponential difference to second place is likely influenced by Crime Junkie and My Favorite Murder being the 2 most rated podcasts. And by the way, I hope you'll all tune in for my new podcast, which is a news show about wilderness golf murders. In Variety, Paramount won't return to TV's Upfront Week in New York. Back in the heyday of Upfront Week, the period when TV networks wine and dine the advertising industry to sell the majority of the year's commercial inventory, Paramount Global's CBS was a centerpiece of the event. Events at Carnegie Hall grew to feature everything from live music by The Who to a farewell appearance from David Letterman. This year, however, Paramount is electing to keep their upfront activities confined to private meetings in New York, Chicago, and LA, arguing the personal touch leads to a better response from clients. A targeted approach instead of a shotgun blast, and I apologize for that for the GARM safety rating folks. With an old guard presence like Paramount not taking part of the usual upfront pageantry, the old school upfront might not be long for our increasingly connected and personalized advertising ecosystem. In Ad Exchanger from Luma, 2024 will be better for mergers and acquisitions. No, seriously, this time. 2023 was not a hot year for mergers and acquisitions in the world of ad tech. Save for a few big headlines like the Omnicom acquisition of Flywheel, overall deal activity in the market was down 10% year over year. According to Luma's full-year market report, 2023 was the worst in over a decade for deal volume. That said, Luma is cautiously optimistic for this year, with hope that the U.S. economy will gently turn around and Google starting the process of phasing out third-party cookies in Chrome. Podcasting did not have a perfect 2023, but as Brian Barletta's industry recap of the year shows, the industry still made its fair share of deals. In Pod the North, are awards worth it for Canadian podcasts? And this from Katie Lohr, who looks to answer the question in the headline by taking a close look at reports of issues with the 2023 Signal Awards. Last year's round had almost 2,000 entries across 107 categories and 600 total winners, averaging 5.6 per category. Applying for Signal consideration cost $225 with early bird pricing reaching up to $7.95 per category near the end of submissions. A lack of communication followed Laura throughout her reporting, with nominees and judges alike expressing confusion as to how the awards work. Some categories had multiple gold winners, some had none. One podcast that was in a category by itself still somehow only went home a bronze. While the article focuses specifically on the Signal Awards, there are similarities to previous issues cited with larger award ceremonies. Clear communication and a public rubric for how nominees are awarded various levels of recognition are valuable tools in maintaining the prestige of these awards. And finally, as part of WPP's end-of-year project collecting predictions from industry experts, AMP's Michael Arnese gave a 2-minute breakdown of why audio is primed for growth this year. According to Spotify's Culture Next Report 2023, Gen Z listened to 500 billion songs in the first half of the year, along with 3 billion podcast episodes, a 76% year-over-year increase. Arnese predicts the next step forward is merging human craft with automation tools to better enable brands to create at scale, fulfilling the increasing demand for audio content. Be sure to check out the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app or at soundsprofitable.com, where you can also subscribe to the newsletter version. The download is written and produced by Brian Barletta, Gavin Gaddis, and me. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Tom Webster. Download us again tomorrow.